I think it's safe to say that at some point in our lives, when it comes to our interpersonal relationships, we have probably observed and said about someone, wow, it's just about them. It's always about them. They're so self-centered. They are so inconsiderate. And we reflect upon the fact that, look at this person in our frustration. With a very critical eye, we make that observation. In our Parshas Ki Seitzei, we have a mitzvah which is very well known but very rare. And that is the mitzvah of the Shiluach HaKan. The Torah says if you happen upon, you can't set this up. It's not like we can set up the situation, but if you happen upon a situation in which there is a nest and there is a mother bird, and the mother bird is sitting on top of its chicks or its eggs, and you want to take the chicks and you want to take the eggs, so the Torah says, Shaleach to Shalach Esa'im, you have to send away the mother bird before taking the eggs and before taking the chicks. And the Torah is very explicit. If you do this, you'll have a long life. Although, Torah doesn't tell us the reason for this mitzvah. And many of the Mefarshim think of different possibilities. And I want to share a thought of the Avnei Ezel, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, which is really based on a comment of the Medrash Rabbah on this mitzvah. The Medrash Rabbah says that if a person fulfills this mitzvah, they are mimaher, they speed up the coming of Mashiach. They speed up the coming of Eliyahu Hanavi. When Mashiach comes, we'll greet Eliyahu Hanavi. So what does Mashiach and Eliyahu Hanavi have to do with the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan, with sending away the mother bird? So he explains as follows. He says, any evil that exists in this world really has its root in one word. And he calls it the Anochius. Anochius coming from the root of Anochi. Anochi is I, is me. We, of course, know the word Anochi of Hashem. Hashem says Anochi. But Anochius in terms of man is that when a person thinks of themselves. So potentially if a person thinks of themselves before thinking of anyone else, before thinking of the rest of the community, before thinking about the rest of society, the person is only focused on what can they get out of a given situation. And whether it comes to interpersonal relationships, whether it comes to financial matters, whether it comes to education, whatever it might be, a person's self-centeredness, a person being inconsiderate of others, allows their bad midos, their not so good midos, character traits to come forth, and really introduces evil into the world. And so what does this have to do with Shiluach HaKan? So he explains so beautifully. He says, the person who is shooing away the mother bird, that person does have a possibility, is that they could take the mother bird, they could take the chicks, they could take the eggs with the mother bird. The halacha is that you're not allowed to shecht a parent and its offspring on the same day, so a person could make sure to leave one over. But they could take both and take it for themselves. But the fact that I'm shooing away the mother bird means that mother bird, although it may have lost its children, can now go elsewhere and bring more eggs and more chicks into the world, which can then end up being nourishment or sustenance for someone else. So by virtue of my shooing away the mother bird, I am not being self-centered. I am not being inconsiderate. I'm thinking about other people because I want other people to benefit and not be selfish, not be only about me. And so ultimately, when we act in a way in which we're not focusing only on ourselves, but we're focusing about how we can benefit other people, how we can benefit the klal, the general population, how we can benefit our fellow Jews, then we're introducing good into the world, which ultimately, when there's more good than evil in the world, will bring about speedily the coming of Mashiach. And so the Avnei Ezel says this mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan, which we think may seem relatively simple in the way that we perform it, it has so much more meaning and so much more depth of significance than we see on the surface. And while we're in the month of Elul and we reflect on ourselves and our own actions, and we reflect on our own anochius, our own self-centeredness when it has come to mitzvos that are ben adam lachavero, mitzvos that are between us and other people, and mitzvos ben adam lamakom, between us and Hashem. And we start to think to ourselves over the course of the last year, how has our own selfishness prevented other people from benefiting from us, benefiting from our knowledge, benefiting from our Torah, benefiting from our chesed? And how had we also, other people, really benefited from our presence and our time? So we can focus on our own sense of selves to be able to give to others. But let's make sure during this Elul that we prepare for the next year to give, and not simply only to take for ourselves. Wishing everyone a good Shabbos.